using local, they're using some of the very modern tools of information technology to reach out to the farmers. And they're doing it in a manner which.
Right. There's no need of this. I had sent some file of Oh, it's not here. But okay, let's at least proceed.
So you have to use mic because the sound will
recording.
not be recorded.
Oh. Follow this. Yeah.
Yes, sir. इसके नीचे है सर, नीचे, इसके नीचे है।
Okay. What to say? Good afternoon or good morning. It's afternoon now. Let me introduce myself first. I am Anil Oberoi. I am Principal Chief Conservator of Forest Madhya Pradesh. And tell you little about the Madhya Pradesh Forest Department. In fact, we are the pioneers and leaders in management of natural resources using the mobile systems. We started our efforts sometime 3 years back, and through the course journey so far, we have almost bagged every national award, 2 times National E-Governance Awards, India Innovation Award, Web Ratna Award, Manthan Award, so many awards are there. And recently we got that United Nations World Summit Award. So it was conferred on 6th of December in Abu Dhabi recently. Basically the idea was that in far-flung areas where connectivity is not there, where other problems are there, so you capture the information on your handheld devices, and whenever you come across to the connected area, you just upload that information, and in the server farms which we have, the data is not only processed properly, but it is value added also, validations are also done, and it is served to the public. When I say public, it's available for the social audit purposes. So these efforts started almost 3 years back, and today the Madhya Pradesh Forest Department is assisting even the Rural Development Department of Government of India and other departments and many other organizations. So that's a bit background. Of course, I forgot to mention you that we were given the Prime Minister's Award of Excellence in Public Administration. So that's a great credit, and especially to an organization, which deals in the geographically disadvantaged locations. So that's a great effort. And may I introduce my chair, Dr. K.J. Ramesh from Ministry of Earth Sciences. He is an eminent researcher and scholar. So I will request him to.
Thank you, Mr. Oberoi. It is my pleasing experience to be with you all. I work for the Ministry of Earth Sciences. I am an advisor there. I look after the programs related to disaster support and climate change. So under the Ministry of Earth Sciences, we render all atmospheric science services rendered by India Meteorological Department and the ocean side services. We have an institution called Indian National Center for Ocean Information Services that is located in Hyderabad. All ocean state forecasting, ocean state observation systems, and even most important thing is the tsunami warning system, which was built for the country after the 2005 tsunami. In 2007 October, the tsunami warning system is built. It has got lot of observation systems over the ocean and a lot of information from the neighboring Indonesia and all other countries. We receive all earthquake information, and tsunami-genic potential of each of the seabed earthquakes are analyzed, and travel times. If it is a tsunami-genic earthquake. Then travel time of the tsunami wave is calculated, and direction of the wave is assessed, and the direction of the wave is prognosticated, and the travel time is disseminated by all the satellite communication based systems. And most important thing is, if an earthquake takes place in Sumatra, just south of our Andaman Islands, Indira Point is the southernmost point, and Sumatra Banda Aceh is the northernmost point there. But the tsunami-genic earthquake takes place, travel time of the tsunami wave is only half an hour there. So all your early warning system has to be automated in such a way that after the event of the earthquake event takes place, within 15 minutes, the standard operation procedure is built that all automated programs will be running, and tsunami watch or alert is generated in 15 minutes time and disseminated also. So normally it takes 4 to 5 minutes after the event is recorded to assess the possible impact of that, and next 5-6 minutes is used to disseminate to the people. So that's how the ICT plays a very important role here. It is a backbone. Even the earthquake information comes by satellite communication, and all tools are automated. Travel time models, tsunami models are interpretation tools, all you can call it as a decision support system tools.
This is what accelerated after the tsunami happened?
Yes. We didn't have tsunami warning system earlier, so it was built in 2 years' time. It is a state-of-the-art tsunami warning system. Over the world, we have 3 such things. One is operated by NOAA in USA for Pacific and Atlantic, and Pacific one is located in Central Pacific Island, Hawaii, in Pacific Tsunami Warning System, and third one is ours, and Indonesia and Australia are also building. So these are some of the areas where ICT is effectively used. Even on atmospheric science side, most of the observations are remotely disseminated to the satellite, and through ground station it is received in Delhi and Pune. And for dissemination of the warnings also, ICT is used. Now only we are building so many WebGIS applications using Digital Earth or Google Earth as one of the overlaying platforms. And most of the weather centers in the world are putting their products over WebGIS platform now. India is somewhat late in this particular area. I think in about 6 months' time, we should have so many WebGIS applications. Thank you.
Coming back to this session, in fact, there are 3 parts of it. One is the use of ICT and the content availability in science and environment side, and then how ICT can help making environment sustainable. The third aspect is how to increase the penetration of this information across the globe. I may say a few words before inviting, I think you are from? Odisha, okay. Are you there for the presentation? No. So since we have only digital green with us, so we will request them to give the presentation. See, in my opinion, what I feel that the content in science and environment is not available to the extent it is required. In fact, ICT itself is the outcome of the scientific research and development. But the target groups, if you see that most of the content which is available in the market, that's people oriented. The target group in science world is not only the researchers, the managers and the citizen also, and it is the academia also. What I particularly find that the scientific world because of its research and other commitments, they are more introvert sort of thing, and there is not much uh, availability of the where they are going. Among the researchers, there are the groups, there are the networks like universities, InfinityNet is there, the research network is there, the education network is there, but somehow the uh, communities and the actual users, the citizen-centric, it's not there. So there is a need to generate content which is going to help people in understanding the simple principles of the science, but not in a very complex scenario. It has to be in a manner, in a visualized form, so that a common man also understands it properly. So content production itself is a very challenging task in the scientific world. We are all listening about the hydrogen collider and the theory of the Stephen Hawking and all that. Most of the people, they get caught by the jargons, whether the God exists or not, all that. But they, at the back of their mind, they do not understand what is the scientific approach towards this. I think it has to be, science has to be more and more in a realm and in a content enriched in a visual form, so that the layman can understand it properly. Coming to the environment side, there are a number of sites now available which gives you the data. But I particularly find that the awareness among these common men to use that kind of data is not there. The penetration is not there. And particularly there are certain sites, I know certain innovations also, wherein if you are traveling towards some countryside, so you can get all the messages, what is the pollution level in the rivers, in the tanks, in the lakes and in the air also. So if that kind of information is made available to the citizens, probably there will be a more awakening, and it will be utilized by the people so that they can avoid the side effects of the pollution. The other aspect which I find is that there are a lot of efforts as far as penetration is concerned. Of course, the infrastructure is one side where there is problem, but nevertheless, the Government of India and under the auspices of the United Nations, many efforts are being made. Like Sam Pitroda said, knowledge network, knowledge center. I think that's a very important, but he said it's only limited to 2,500 institutions. Why? Knowledge is to be shared by the public at all. So naturally, of course, if the information is on the portal and if public has access to it, then it's okay. But sharing knowledge among the researchers and among the academia is not sufficient. I think, like the digital world said, they are taking knowledge to the farmers. So it has to be taken to the target groups also. This effort should be made to increase the M-based dissemination of the information, of the knowledge with respect to the science and the environment. And I feel that the digital panchayats which are now taking shape in the country, however, I still feel that maybe the connectivity in these areas will be available only after 3 or 4, 5 years, maybe a little less than that. But we must start building the capacities of the panchayats so that they understand how the environment is changing. With the side effects of the environment, there is likely to be great impact on the productivity in the agriculture sector. And that's where the targeted groups have to be made ready to combat the bad effects of the environment side. So we have to look into these aspects. I particularly find that the content generation, dissemination of the information in science and environment is a challenge to the community right now, especially to the service providers and the technology providers. So more and more innovative ways have to be thought of. With these remarks, if chair has to say something, then we will request.
I just want to add a couple of issues to this beyond whatever Upright Sahab has said. If the content is important, it is very important in respect of the requirements. Once the service provider realizes the requirements of the user, targeted users within the community, so then it becomes more relevant to them and they will accept, and perhaps they can subscribe also through payment. One such example I just want to narrate. This has started only just 1 year before. We have an agro advisory service to give it to the farmers at district level only. It is not going beyond below the district level. So twice in a week for every subsequent 4 days, information is given in terms of wind, temperatures, and likely rainfall and cloud amount. These are the 4 parameters which are required for the crops to decide on. If more rain is there, they will not apply fertilizers or pesticides because rain will take away all that. So to plan some of the major agriculture activities, so these kind of advisories are given. At cluster of district level, 3-4 districts, we have a unit established there where agricultural scientists will sit and decide upon the crop specific advisories based on the weather information. So that is given in local media and print media, even in television, local, regional language television channels, etc. So this service, from last year, there is a insurer called Writers, you must be aware of that. So they have, what they have done was, this is available on websites and portals at district level from our Med Department portal. And what they have done is, they have picked up crop specific information from the general information provided for all the crops sown in each district. So then they have advertised that if any crop specific information is required, that will be provided in local language through mobile service available in that area by taking 50 rupees subscription per month. In 1 year time, particularly for the Kharif of 2010, that subscription crossed 10 lakh subscribers all over the country. So 50 rupees per month. Of course, that subscription was 4 months of the Kharif area. After the Kharif season is over, September and middle of October, subscription went down to about 5 lakhs. But it depends. So at least for the Kharif season, they were valuing this information to be useful to them, and that's how people are ready to pay a token amount of 50 rupees and then use the information which is of relevance to them. So this is one particular example. We never expected that the penetration will go to 1 million level in 1 year of its time. But this is only part of it is picked up by the service provider, and whomsoever asked for that particular crop information, extracted and translated into local language and disseminated through SMS system. So once you have the right content which the users require, perhaps that penetration will be faster and more deeper. Thank you. With these few words, I request Mr. Vinay Kumar to make his presentation. Mr. Vinay Kumar, please.
Thank you. How much time would I have? Because I had, this presentation is 5 minutes, but I can have a presentation which is for 10 minutes.
We must close at 2 o'clock. So
Okay.
we have almost half an hour.
So,
Take 15-20 minutes.
so I can.
Sure.
इसमें ना एक और presentation. Well, thank you very much for and I thank the organizers for giving us this opportunity to share our work. And it's an honor to be in the company of, Mr. Anil Oberoi and Dr. K.J. Ramesh, both from the awards that the Forest Department in MP has won. I think it's a great honor to be with you, sir, and we look forward to kind of partnering with you at some point. And I also mentioned that, just to give you a brief introduction about Digital Green before I start this. Talking of awards, I think we feel very proud of being able to get support of some very well-known organizations. And this year, the Fortune magazine in the US, which identified 8 world visionaries. You'll be happy to know that Digital Green, 2 individuals from Digital Green was part of that. There were only 3 Indians out of 8 visionaries, and other people who were named there was people like Muhammad Yunus, Mr. Lakshmi Mittal, Seth of IRB, and out of 3 Indians, 2 were from Digital Green. So that gives us a great sense of achievement. What we do in Digital Green is, it's a young organization. With the CEO of this company, he's 29 years of age. I'm the oldest guy around, but other people are very young, technology savvy, and so can we start the second year? So basically our mission is to develop and apply technology in development efforts to make a change in a sustained manner. And can you go to the next one? Oh, this is okay. So it started as a pilot project of Microsoft Research in 2006 in the area of agriculture extension. That is a time when in Microsoft they were looking at different areas in the development domain where ICT could apply, and they found that agriculture extension is probably one area. So we were actually, the Digital Green was part of Microsoft Research. And then in the pilot project, it was found over a period of 2 years, the work went on, it was found that it was 10 times more cost effective and 7 times more adoptions were reported than classical agriculture extension. And after that, we got additional funding from the Gates Foundation, and we spun off as an independent organization, and we are registered as a foundation in the US, and we are registered as a trust in India. And we have regional offices in Delhi, in Bhopal, in Bangalore, in Bhubaneswar, and our main office is here in Delhi. Okay, yeah, sorry. So when we started looking at how do we reach out to the farmers, what would be the best way to do it, we looked at several methods, and one of the things that was very apparent was that the farmers found information coming from their neighborhood, coming from people who they knew, who were progressive farmers, who were using some techniques which were better than theirs. And if that information was made available to them, that made a lot of impact. So we kind of, and this is a survey which was done by the government, and you will see that government demonstration and others were far less, and other progressive farmers was the highest. Can we move on to the next? So our problem, oh, I'm sorry, this is a different presentation. Okay, so our problem really was that we were working in an area where the connectivity and computing was a challenge. The infrastructure was a challenge. I had those slides. I think this is a different presentation. And what we were really trying to do was to reach out to the farmers in a manner that we could speed up the whole process and use information technology in a fashion that it was user friendly. So how can the speed and effectiveness of agriculture extension be improved at a reasonable cost? That was the challenge that we were facing. So next one. So what we did was that we looked at digital video as a way which would provide huge resource savings and accessibility to non-literate farmers because of the way it was done. And so next. And we developed a system, and it was a fairly iterative process of about 200 days of investigation and ethnographic stuff to find out what is it that we should do. And we came up with a model which is primarily, based on participatory content production. So there is not just the participation of the part of the farmers, they actually produce this content themselves by using cameras, which I'll just show you. We have a camera, this is the camera which is used to take a digital video of about 8 to 10 minutes, and the farmers themselves are trained to take that video. They identify the content. Of course, we have subject matter specialists there. We also have people who help in, through very simple software like Movie Maker to edit this so that it is of reasonable quality. But the best part of it is that all this technical work is accomplished at the district level at the most. It doesn't go beyond that. So you have this high degree of participation, and then we develop these video database. We have so far about 1,000 videos that we have developed so far, and they are all in a global repository, and they can be accessed by anybody. Then the other challenge that we had was that how do you make this information available to the farmers? It has always been found by people who work in the area of behavior change communication that when you are trying to bring about a behavior change, whether it's about adopting a practice or whatever, it's never in the tell mode that it works. Knowledge and information doesn't change behavior. What changes behavior really is through interpersonal communication. When you get into a dialogue or a reflection mode, when you penetrate into the minds of people and make them realize, and you create an environment where there is peer pressure, they see somebody in their neighborhood who's doing something better, there is evidence of doing something better, and that makes people change their behavior at the community setting. Now when you use this as an interpersonal communication tool, you are doing one-on-one basis. So one individual is talking to the other. What we are trying to do with technology is that we are amplifying this effectiveness through dissemination, human-mediated dissemination. So we are not kind of going there and showing them a video. We are choosing a time, we are identifying self-help groups who are from the farmer community. We have individuals from the village who have who are from there. We train them how to use this simple device that we use, which is called a Pico projector. This device, earlier when we started, we were using television sets, DVD players. You needed a power supply. This we don't need anything, and logistically it was a challenge to manage all of that. Now what you have is just a simple thing. You shoot a film, you get it edited, get it certified for its content by subject matter specialists. It then gets into a chip, which is then inserted into this, and you can show for 2 hours. This is battery operated, so you can charge it for 2 hours. It is there, and you can show it on any white surface in the village, and you can fast forward it. You can go back. You can pause. So you actually, what you're trying to do in this process is you convert that screening into a focus group discussion format where people are asking questions. So you are making them reflect. And one of the things that we find in each of these screenings, people ask, who is this person in the video? And where is this person from? And only 3 days ago I was in Hubli and we were in a village there, and there was this woman who was demonstrating how to use lime with water as a stimulant for production of milk. There is an increase in milk production. And people were easily able to identify, oh, I've seen this woman in 3 villages from here. So the whole idea really is to do this within the vicinity. So we are creating local idols. And these people really feel kind of motivated because somebody in the neighborhood is doing it. They can go there and see that this is actually happening. So the adoption rates are high. And then structured sequencing, which is like we have stuff going on for the short term and for the long term. So can we move on to the next? Yeah, so this is participatory content production. So we initially go to the villages, introduce the innovation. We also have a standard operating procedure as to how each step has to. So we explain that. We do a rough storyboarding because you have to actually create a script for the film that you are shooting. You have to identify local people who can act, and it's interesting to watch somebody totally fresh coming there and acting, and so a repetitive pattern, easy to learn. It's so minimize post-production. If you have a storyboarding, then the post-production work is less. And then local farmers on their own fields. So you reduce perception of features. So nobody is telling you to do something. You're actually, doing it and learning. Because people say that hearing and doing, people don't do. 50% if you see something, and I think a little more when you actually do it, then people tend to, praise it. And then we are also trying, and we are promoting local stars. Now these people who come on the on these things, they become real stars there and popular. And there is this aspiration in people to be able to do that. So this is a whole lot of local dynamics in which we kind of operate this. And you can see the farmer is actually shooting that. Can we go to the next, please?
You may continue
because
otherwise time will run.
Right. So after production, what was the next one? No, participatory this thing, then production. This is actually production, participatory production, dissemination. Now when we get into the dissemination, very often one of the things that we are always trying to do is to see that the kind of videos and the practices that we are shooting, they should be community driven. So it takes about 4 or 5 sittings for community to develop that rapport with the community resource person who is actually showing the video. So and gradually they themselves start coming up and asking you that we want a video on this practice. We've heard about this practice. Can we have a video? And I think that is most powerful, because then you are developing a video around that and showing it to them, and then the adoption rates are much higher. So what we are trying to do in the process is that we are trying to get the community to become more active in the whole process. So that is the dissemination part, and then there is this videos that we have uploaded. If you go to our website, we have a technology tab there. And you go to the technology tab, and you will have a list of all the videos that have been produced, and we have created them in such a fashion that they are very user friendly. If you want a video of a particular type, you just have to put that, and the videos will come. And they are in local language, actually in local dialects. So that they become more and more relevant for the local people. And then there is this structured sequencing. So this whole thing happens in a sequential kind of a fashion. So this is, so when we kind of do this, we found that this was 10 times more cost effective. And in terms of cost, against the, those of you who might be aware of the training and visit approach of the World Bank, which was there and which is still prevalent in the agriculture extension system of the government. So if you compare it with that, and there's a research study that has been done, it has been published, which demonstrated that this is 10 times more efficient in terms of cost, and in terms of being effective, 7 times more effective in terms of the farmers kind of accepting new practices. And then we have developed a technology platform to understand how do you monitor this project. We are working in remote villages all over the country now. We're working in 4 states, and the connectivity, as Mr. Oberoi was also saying, is a challenge. There's no connectivity there. There's very little connectivity, particularly north. In Karnataka, that's not so much of an issue. And so what we have done is we have tried to develop a platform which we call COCO, Connect Online, Connect Offline. Those of you who might have experienced Gmail, there is an option there to go offline, and if you go offline, you can do all the functions as if you are online, except that you are not connected. So we have used that platform to be able to develop this data reporting system where when you are offline, people can enter the data, and when they get online, and when you have already entered the data and you are presenting it when you get online, it is 10 times more faster. So what we are doing is that we are able to capture the goings on the ground almost on a real time basis. And very often it has happened, you're seeing our analytics dashboard and you find numbers increasing. And then built on this, we have developed what we call as the analytics dashboard. We have to keep going. I think we covered quite a bit of this. Go ahead. This was that agriculture challenging thing I talked about. You just keep going. This is you saw. Keep going. This is, yeah. So this is the iteration that we looked at different parameters, background of the videos, type of content, location, timing. These are the instruments that we're using. And they just cost actually this now costs $125, which is, earlier we were using a TV and all of that. This is what I'm talking about, Connect Online, Connect Offline. This is an extremely powerful tool to be able to, and go to the next, which is the analytics. This is, if you go to our, can you go online with this? That would be good. Then we can actually show you exactly what is happening on the ground. We can find out what is happening in each of the village, how many videos have been produced, how many have been disseminated, how many farmers have been reached, how many dissemination meetings have happened, what was the composition of the meeting, how many men and how many women have attended, and you'll be surprised that in most of these dissemination meetings, about 70 to 80% are women. And one of our mandates is to, promote, empower women. And then also, how many people during those meetings have said that we want to adopt this. So one is express adoption, the other is verified adoption. When they actually adopt it on the field, so we have these community resource people who are actually working with them. Because just seeing the video, you don't get everything. So you are. What do you will put your website on?
May I say that? I think since we are limited, so
Sure.
You talked about the technology part.
Right.
But what is the content which is being served to the
Right.
farmers?
That's why I wanted to.
Important.
I wanted to go. See, the content is that whatever is relevant for the local people. It is agricultural practices.
Who decides the content? In fact, suppose we are a group of farmers and we want to show something. So, I mean, that's where I would like to, you know.
Sure. So typically, what happens is that at the district level, we work with partners. Because as you can imagine, we only provide technical assistance and technology and all of that. So what we do is that when there are certain practices which have been found to be very useful. So we have a subject matter specialist who's based at the district level, who's from our partner organization. And he's supposed to be an agriculture guy who knows this. So when we go to the villages and with the community resource people and we talk to them, we see what are the practices they're adopting and then see what are the practices that can be adopted or improved upon. So it is possible that in the neighborhood there are some practices which are good practices which are already in existence and these people don't know. So we try and tap on them and you know do the video with the person who's adopting that practice, and then the video is edited through a movie maker software, and then the content of that is kind of certified by the subject matter specialist. So that
means it's the best practices maybe in any kind of crop or any kind of agricultural improvement,
sure.
Production system improvement, you capture it and that is served for others to take advantage
Absolutely,
of.
absolutely. And the ones which have the potential of being useful in that context, in that geographical context.
Because that's right, the micro region is
right,
there.
right.
So will it cover non-farming economic activities also? You
Yes,
said that
it does.
Target group is self-help groups.
Right.
So
What
it
we are
may not
trying
be
to do.
limited to only
Sure.
farming.
Right. I mean, we found a lot of potential in this approach in other domains. I mean, like for example, we're working BIAF, and as you know, BIAF is primarily into animal husbandry. So we've been doing a lot of stuff with them on artificial insemination, on like I was just talking about this milk, increasing the milk yield. We're also now in dialogue with Mr. Vijay Kumar to do this in a whole range of things which improve the livelihood of rural community. You know, I think he has done some very good pioneering work in Andhra Pradesh.
World Bank project.
Right.
Livelihood project.
Right. So there are some good practices there, and I think what this model does is that it amplifies the effectiveness and the reach and the reach. You know, because ultimately it is the people in the villages who are actually getting trained and who are disseminating this.
Getting exposed to the new inputs.
Right, getting exposed to the new inputs and
In fact, similar type of, you said livelihood mission. In Madhya Pradesh, the livelihood, there is a project, DFID project, it's called
oh yes,
livelihood.
livelihood.
So, same technology, of course not the gadget like this, but this ordinary smartphone which has a capacity to shoot has been used not only to, I'm not talking about the agriculture, but off-farm activities. That thing
Sure.
content is being made by the villagers themselves. The project team edits it and it's available on the net. So there is a lot of exchange of ideas and the exchange of information between various self-help groups.
Sure.
So that's a good effort.
And actually we have been kind of in discussion with DFID for the MP part, because I think until recently state governments were doing the rural livelihood work themselves, but after the formation of this mission, they are gradually going to be under one umbrella, and so I think that of course is going to be a very exciting.
Just to tell you, that project has been done by us from Forest Department.
Oh,
And now this is being upscaled, and another feature is being added to it. It's not that using this kind of gadget and people are using it and disseminating it, but now people have started using the mobile phones also.
oh yes.
So those small clippings are pushed to the gadgets of mobiles of the individual persons also.
Sure.
So that's where how the knowledge is being shared by them. So it has great potential.
No, and I think if you look at 3 years down the line with the knowledge network and what Mr. Petroda was saying, I mean the whole rural countryside is there'll be a revolution. There'll be almost a revolution, and particularly if the kind of in AP, I think what they've done is that people with half an acre of land and with some of these new practices that they have promoted there, the income of farmers has increased by 50,000 rupees per year, which is an enormous increase at that level. And if that can be scaled up, and we have seen the potential of using this kind of technology to compress the 10-year timeline of the mission to maybe 8 years to be able to reach that population.
I think we heard Mr. Pawar's case. That's a wonderful case, and he has taken many years in fact. The technology can really compress it.
Sure.
And that's how the rural masses have to be approached in fact. The real business now lies in capturing the rural masses. And I feel the Intel or Microsoft or the other vendors, they are also very keenly looking for the rural markets.
I can absolutely vouch for
Sure.
it, but I think there's a lot of change that is coming in. Of course, Microsoft, I have to say, has been leading the chart in a different way. So we as an Intel, we have done a lot of work in education and continue to do that. I think there's a lot of shift that has started to come into how we look at agriculture. So really go to the grassroots level and figure out what can we do to really solve people's problems.
Particularly a lot of content is required for nutrition.
Oh yes.
Yes.
Malnutrition is the biggest problem in the rural areas.
I think it's already 150. So we can have some lively. Villages is it's already 150, and we have 10 more minutes, so we can have a open.
I will be very glad to answer any questions.
First of all, let me appreciate and congratulate you. The kind of the device which you are using and the methodologies which you have developed, it's really wonderful, and it has immense potential of reaching masses. And in fact, I will be very pleased if you can tell me, give me some details about this gadget also. At least I am not aware of it.
With you.
Yeah, this is a Pico projector.
Pico projector.
This is a new device. Actually, this is an improvised version of what we were using earlier. It has, you can just insert a chip which has the videos for 2 hours. It can run on battery.
SD card goes there.
SD cards.
You can also link laptop to
Oh yeah, you can also do a presentation.
So projection is there.
Since it is a projection system,
But
so no problem.
it
But
can be very, you can just put it in your pocket.
that's right. That's the ease of it. You can take it to
Power
your
source is not
serious-
required. That is the biggest advantage.
Charging battery.
No, this actually they're not available in India as yet. We are importing it from to Hong Kong through the US.
But we will request you can be a sole distributor of this in India. Because there will be a tremendous demand. You can have my first order of 500 pieces.
I was about to say today in the audience you would have bought 20, 40, 50 pieces here only.
They would have been sold.
On their hotcakes.
Yes.
It's going to be very interesting thing.
Since
Very,
it is
very
not their product, but definitely, I mean,
gadgets.
Yeah, unfortunately, we are not in the business of selling
No,
projectors.
I understand.
But you know, I think this has a tremendous potential, and there are a couple of companies in India who are going to bring this up. The only problem with them is that they're trying to put in too many things into it. You know, they're trying to put in the mobile phone, they're trying to put in, and what really happens
Camera
when you do that,
and
when you-
more
yeah, when you
features.
do that, then the
Functionality.
yeah, of it gets affected. But otherwise, this is a great device, and we are seeing in 1.5 years of our work when we are scaling up, we have already changed 3 models of the camera and 3 models of Pico projector, and we have totally gone beyond looking at the TV. Earlier we were having this large
Yeah, I know.
TVs and taking it on
Yeah,
rickshaws
that's
and all of that. That is all gone.
See, with the advancement in technology and with the sizes coming smaller and smaller, probably the scope of its use increases. We all know when the mobile phones came, they were not as used as they are being used right now. I mean, you have, now I can even use the GIS platform on my mobile. In fact, the strength of the Madhya Pradesh Forest Department is that we run our GIS applications on this. And you can,
Do your forest guards have mobile phones now?
all forest guards, all forest frontline forest guards, they have the mobile, not only mobile phones, but these PDAs. And it helps you in management also. It tracks the movement of the person. It tracks the works also, and at the same time we have linked, when I said the all information which comes to the central server, some value addition is done.
Yeah, road is
So
battery
the-
connected.
That's right. And the financial aspect is also taken, and then it is produced in a visual format to the layman. It's a proactive governance as well as it's the real time, on the fly information to all decision makers and the.
You know, one of the novel features that we're adding now to our work is that one of the things that we find is that in the analytic dashboard, you have names of farmers who have benefited and who will be part of the. We are now starting something called a farmer Facebook, where there will be a brief history of each farmer that we are reaching.
On your portal itself?
No, yeah, on our website, which would be like a typical, I'm sure
It's a great idea.
most of the people, so you know exactly who you are reaching. And there will be a photograph, there will be history about the farmer. There will also be a gradual progress you can see that is happening in this water life. And there are a lot of people that also makes it possible to connect the agriculture sector in India to larger audiences worldwide. I can see a situation 5 years down the line when somebody sitting in Wisconsin is feeling like giving back to society and see this and they make a connection. I don't know if you played this game called Farmville on the Facebook. This is a virtual game, right? What we are trying to do is we're trying to create a real game where there will be entertainment, there will be empathy, there will be an understanding of the rural countryside, and I can see a situation where people will actually start caring for large sections of the rural farming community through this network.
What's the portal, please?
It is, we have not still done it, I mean, it will take some time. But ours is www.digitalgreen.org.
Vinay, I have I guess a little divergent view, slightly divergent view as far as the dissemination part of it is concerned. And this is probably comes from our own anecdotal experiences or whatever some sort of research we have done and whatever we have seen. So while I don't disagree with your approach of disseminating content in a community setting where people can, it's more coordinated dissemination of information. I have a feeling that we tend to underestimate, the masses' own ability to consume content on their own. And there are lots and lots of different things which have shown that, once a piece of information which is valuable to them is somehow made available to them, they figure it out. This is spread.
But how do you somehow make it available?
So which is where I was going. So for example, I think you probably gave that example where this routers, I think, have been
weather-based
used
background.
to disseminate the weather piece of information. I could totally see, especially with all the thoughts that you already had, right? Where a farmer, let's say, somehow through self-help groups or community, and I say, this is the type of problem at any given point in time I'm facing. Right now I'm facing a problem because my crop is of going to XYZ. And you have this whole database of videos that are tomorrow, right now they're more coordinated set of videos, but they could become like a YouTube. Right? Lots and lots of videos are coming. I can see that there will be a problem if a farmer is asked to go fetch the information. But what if they've done his problem set, all videos are pushed to him and he watches them, and that's a service to him.
Ultimately, I think that's where this will all be.
Has to
And I think with
converge.
the 3G and everything coming in, I think
That makes it more easier.
In fact,
To send it across
Maybe-
very individually.
I think that will, in my own opinion, that will probably spread like a wildfire.
Yes,
that's right.
Because of-
3G will push several applications like
And then there could be other things in a 3G, even if it's let's assume for a second it's a bit expensive to start with. If profit motive is not the bigger piece here, which doesn't seem like it is, then there would be peer-to-peer mechanism through which some of this information is
It's
changed
not
hands.
costly, at least MTNL 3G
Bluetooth or
service.
stuff like that.
MTNL 3G service is not at all costly.
No, I
So
I agree with you.
that
but
way,
what you are saying, I also I endorse it. That kind of system has to be developed, and probably since you have taken a lead, I mean, it's not that you are pushing the information through a website, but ultimately the query which a farmer or the other professional, I mean, other occupations are there. If he inquires about it and if the system as a whole churns it and then gives him the particular relevant clippings, probably he is going to be benefited.
Sure.
so the necessary platform for that they are already planning, farmer
I think
Facebook.
they have
So
all the
already progressive
this
thinking
may
has
be
already
part of the
started.
pipeline
We
anyway.
should appreciate that.
Because we seem to have all the right elements that are required. But I can also see
have
the
an
benefit of the
IDR
other
system
side.
here, where and actually one of the things that we are doing is that University of Berkeley and Yale are actually doing the evaluation, because we don't want to do the evaluation ourselves, and so we have control villages and project villages where we see how we are moving. But I think very often what really happens is when you're scaling up a project, you kind of compromise on quality. And I think we are very conscious of the fact that that's something we don't want to do. Because, and so we have got these standard operating procedures in place, we've got social audits in place, we have
Some benchmarks have to be established.
Right, I mean, like, you have to be very careful.
Yes.
Because the data can be questioned any time.
Yes.
And there are a lot of stories about data being fudged, and so while we have created a system which incentivizes these community resource people to do more trainings, to do more productions, to do a lot of these things, but as we scale up, we have to be very careful as to how we ensure that these things are done at an accepted level of quality, and they are actually being done.
No, I agree with you. I mean, the effect of a bad practice proliferating could be catastrophic.
That's
right.
So,
No,
I
but
can
people-
cite one example.
People themselves will pick it up. If it is an useful information, when they are successful in adopting it and get benefit out of it, automatically it spreads.
Recently at WSA award ceremony, the Guatemala emergency plan. That's the kind of the thing where whenever there is some kind of emergency, the people are sending using SMS to a centralized database that this has happened here and this is what is the situation here, and it is the people again, those who are telling them you adopt this practice or do this way or that way. So it's a people's platform, but the technology used is so simple that one message and there may be 10 to 20 responses to that. So similar kind of thing can be used in your case, and I may just tell you that for that livelihood project, we have the people telling what they have done, what they got it, and the local leaders, as you were telling, that your project allows people to come up and take leadership. Similarly, these people, they are becoming the local leaders and they are known around, but only limitation there is that we do not have that kind of gadget so that it could be taken to the people all around. It's only through we are pushing this information to the people who get registered on our site.
Now you can add.
Now, yes, definitely. I mean, it has come. So we can provide
There
this.
is a lot of training. You know, one of the things that we actually try to keep ourselves away from is that people get quite excited. We are talking to some of the corporate sector like Godrej and Mahindra. You know, they get very excited with the gadgets. Now the gadgets are actually not important. What is really important is that how
It will be a common.
but how do you blend this gadget with social organization and community networks? So how do you kind of work with them so that they use it?
I share the team use it. May I, when people enter the chair and the moderator, to just conclude 5 to 10 points, we are at the end of the session. Science and knowledge.
Yeah, very nice discussion. We compliment Digital Green and particularly Mr. Vinay Kumar and his colleagues who have built this very powerful tool to disseminate the knowledge sharing and the knowledge transfer mechanism effectively based on the best practices. And I think their effort